I'd like to thank the organizers for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to attend the session and listen to so many very interesting talks, and also speak to you about pain, managing pain, transcending pain from a philosophical and spiritual point of view. The perspective which I'll bring to bear today is from the point of view of Indian philosophy. One of the texts, a compendium of Indian philosophy is called Sarva Darshana Sangraha. It was written some 700 years ago. It means a collection of different philosophies, a collection of all philosophies. And there, the author, who was writing some 700 years ago in what is present-day Karnataka, the Vijayanagar kingdom in present-day Karnataka, there he writes that you see the model which he gives is the model of medicine. He says, Chikitsaka iva, as if they are doctors, philosophers approach the problem of pain. Philosophers approach the problem of human suffering. The classic example is the Buddha. 2500 years ago, the core teaching of the Buddha is that the first noble truth is what we are discussing today, pain. Sarvam dukkham, all is pain. One of our senior Swamis in the Ramakrishna order used to say that Buddhism is a very serious religion. Why? Because it starts with the fundamental assumption, with the axiom that all is pain. And our natural reaction is that all is not pain. There's a lot of happiness in life and some pain. And so in that case, Buddhism hasn't started for you yet. So you have to realize that pain is fundamental to life first. And then he goes, like a doctor, to the cause of pain. What is the cause of pain? And Buddha says, there is a cause of pain which is, he says, Trishna or desire. And then he comes to the third noble truth. Is there a cure? Is there a cure? Is there a way of overcoming pain? Or is it incurable? The third noble truth is that there is a cure. There is a state beyond pain, which he calls nirvana. And then, what is the way to that? Is there a therapy that can be recommended? And the Buddha says that there is a therapy, the Ashtanga Marga, which we, I think in India at least, we all read about these things in class 8, I remember, in school, social studies, we had Buddhism and the Four Noble Truths and all. But you see the medical model of that. The problem, the cause of the problem, the solution of the problem, that there is a solution to the problem, and the way to that solution, the therapy. The specific insight I would like to deal with in this short time that I've got, and we can take up questions later on, is a Vedantic insight. Vedanta, for those of I saw in Rajashrini's presentation, it talks about Vedanta life solutions. What was that? Vedanta?
That's my logo for my new center that I've set up in Salt Lake.
Yeah, and it's called Vedanta?
It's Center for Healing Minds.
Center for Healing Minds, Vedanta. But what does Vedanta actually mean? So Vedanta, the term itself, refers to the philosophy developed from a set of texts going back several thousand years. The Sanskrit is Vedanta Nama Upanishad Pramanam. The knowledge that we get from the Upanishads is called Vedanta. And the Upanishads form a part of the Vedas, which goes back several thousand years. Now, there are many interpretations of these, but I'll give you one particular interpretation. What I'm going to talk about today is based on Advaita Vedanta, non-dual Vedanta, one approach to Vedanta. The basic idea here is, they ask the question, who am I? Who are we? What are we actually? It starts with that. And the answer, I will not keep you waiting, the answer is that we are not the body, we are not even the mind, we are not even a mind-body complex, but we are something quite different from the body and the mind. We are what they call pure consciousness in Vedanta, Chaitanyam. See, the model they have is not of a dichotomous model which we have. In fact, in modern science, in modern medicine also, we have a model that everything is reductive, reduced to the body. So even the mind is an epiphenomenon. Something is happening in the brain and that generates the mind. We don't yet know how it generates the mind, but we take it for granted in modern medicine that it is all body. Even the mind is all brain and your nervous system. That's it. There's nothing more than that. That is generating the mind. In psychology, we say that there is the body and we give the mind some autonomy, some kind of ontological status, and we deal with the mind too, independently of the body. And Vedanta says there is a trichotomous model of the human personality. There is the body, there is the mind, and there is pure consciousness. The body is the name of a series of changes which are physical changes. The mind is a series of mental changes, a stream of thoughts, feelings, emotions, memories. And there is a conscious presence beyond all of these which is unchanging, like a witness to the changes of the body and mind. A series of changes being illumined by this consciousness. And Vedanta gives us techniques of appreciating this, actually feeling this, actually reorienting our understanding about ourselves. If we ask ourselves, who are we, who am I? First thing that we do is we take out your identity card, your passport, or say, this is who I am. And Vedanta says, you are wrong. And then it gives us something very similar to cognitive behavior therapy, especially cognitive therapy, takes you step by step, makes you appreciate why you are not the body, in what sense are you not the mind, and in what sense you are pure consciousness. Instead of talking in general terms, let me just take you through one of these processes, and you will understand. There are a number of these processes. For example, Dridrishya Viveka, which translates into English as the distinction between the seer and the seen. That's one. Panchakosha Viveka, which translates as the analysis of the 5 sheets of the human personality. Avastha Traya Vichara, which translates as analysis of the 3 states of consciousness. Let me take you through one of these approaches, and we will immediately see what they are talking about in Vedanta and how we use that to overcome pain. What they say is, we'll take an operating principle. What you know, that must be different from you. It starts in a very naive, simplistic way. What you see is obviously different from your eyes. So I can see this microphone, and obviously the microphone is different from my eyes. They're 2 different entities. And in fact, that's the only way I can see the microphone, because it is different from my eyes. In fact, the only thing that the eyes cannot see are the eyes themselves. Yes. The eyes cannot see eyes themselves. They can only see something that is at a distance, at a difference from the eyes. So, it starts with that. The seer is different from the seen. The seen is the microphone, the seer are the eyes. In a very naive, childlike way it starts. Very, you might say, if you want to be philosophical, you might say it starts phenomenologically, how we experience it. We are seeing, the eyes are seeing, and the object, this is the seen. And they ask you to appreciate 3 facts. The first, most important fact is the eyes are different from the object that they see. Very simple. Second fact is the eyes by themselves see a variety of objects. The objects are many in number, but the eyes are one. I don't mean that we are one-eyed, but what I mean is the one organ, that is the eyes, they see a variety of objects. There are people, there are different colors and objects, so many things, millions of things. Second point. Third point, the seer, the eyes, remaining relatively unchanged, they see a series of changes. Right now, if you sit in the room, you would see people coming into the room and a session going on. After some time, you would see people leaving in an empty room. The same eyes are seeing. So the seer and the seen are, number 1, different from each other. Number 2, the seer is one and the seen are many. Number 3, the seer is relatively unchanging and the seen is continuously changing. None of this is very spiritual or philosophical or anything, just it's a restatement of what we experience. I understand. I know that I understand. I do not understand. I know that I do not understand. I can think, I can recall. I can understand. I can feel. All these are in the mind. And if you can do all that, then the mind becomes an object. The mind becomes the scene. You are the seer. Whatever you are. That you is the seer and the mind is the scene. Appreciate this fact very carefully. This is what we normally do not think. We as educated, sensible people, we normally identify ourselves very strongly with the mind. And we normally feel we are the mind, we are the personality, we are the memories, we are the thoughts, and we have a body. But here you see, you are asked to see that the mind itself is the scene, and something within, some consciousness within, illumines the mind. I'm not even saying knows the mind, I'm saying illumines the mind. Why? Because knowing is also something part of the mind. It's a part of the mind. It's a function of the mind. So there's something within the seer which knows the mind or illumines the mind. So you are the knower or the seer and the mind becomes the scene. The scene. In that case, think about our first operating principle. The seer and the scene are different. Hence, the mind is different from you. The mind is different from me. Me, the knower of the mind, I must be different from the mind. Otherwise, I can't know the mind. Or I cannot illumine the mind. Number one. Number two, the knower, the seer, being one, experiences the myriad thoughts, emotions, feelings, ideas, memories of the mind. Mind is a series of changes. And number three, that seer remaining unchanged experiences the ever-changing mind. 3 points. You are the seer different from your own mind. Number two, you are one, the mind is manifold. Number three, you are unchanged, the mind continuously changes. And you are asked not just to think about it, you're asked to feel it. What they say is, okay, can we, let me just do this. You see, what they're asking you to say, do is this. When I say the eyes are different from their object, it is no theory. I'm just repeating a plain fact. So everybody experiences this. Your eyes are different from this object. In the same way, the claim is this, exactly the same way, to that extent, your mind is an object as much as this is an object, that glass or a cup is an object. Your mind is an object for you, this witnessing consciousness. What comes of that? How does that help us in pain management? In fact, one of the stories which I like very much about one of the monks in the Himalayas is that this person who had problems went to the Himalayas to a Mahatma, to a Swami in the Himalayas and said, Swami in Hindi, the story is in Hindi. Swami, मैं बहुत दुखी हूँ. मैं बहुत दुखी. I'm miserable. I'm very miserable. And the Swami says, now you can do it. The Swami, there's nothing very great about the Swami. You can do that too now. By whatever we have learned till now. The Swami says, do you experience your misery? And that man replied, of course. Dukh ka anubhav hai. Do you experience it? Of course I experience my misery. That's why I'm miserable. That's why I've come to you. The Swami says, if you experience misery, you are the knower of the misery in your mind. You cannot be miserable. You must be different from your mind. The misery is in your mind. It's an emotion, an affect, a thought, a feeling, an idea. You must be that which knows the misery. You are yourself admitting, I know the misery in my mind. In that case, you are different from it. If you are different from the misery in your mind, you cannot be miserable. It's something that has come into your mind, clouds in the sky, it will pass away. Now this is not the end of the story. The next part is more interesting. That person goes and thinks like that, and if you do think like that, you will see that immediately the mind does tend to calm down. If you do ponder about this. As Hannah said, it puts a distance between yourself and the mind. And it does tend to calm down the mind. And this man thought that way and he did calm down, and then he came back to that Swami and he says that, Swami, I am very peaceful now. You are right, I am very peaceful now. Swami, मैं अभी अब बहुत शांत हूँ, in Hindi. And the Swami replied, no, you are not peaceful. You are the knower of the peace in your mind. You see, what happens normally is, by whatever technique, by whatever therapy, when we calm down the mind, again we become attached to that calm state of the mind. What's wrong with that? What's wrong is, the mind will change again. The moment that person goes back to his house or his place of work, and again there is an irritation, you come out of this beautiful environment and go back to take a bus back to your house, and then you have a real experience of pain. Not here. It's a beautiful environment. And then what happens is, the person thinks that when I was with that Swami in the Himalayas, I was so peaceful. Now the peace has come again. What the Swami teaches him is that you are the knower of the pain in your mind. You're the knower of the peace of your mind also. And that is real peace. That knower is unchanging peace itself. It's not changing. It's the illuminer of all the changes in the world. You see, all the problems are either in the world, or in the body, or in the mind. If you are not, and none of us identify ourselves with the world, we identify ourselves with the body. And if I am not the body, then the problem in the body cannot be my problem. If I am not the mind, the problems in the mind cannot be my problems. And the witness itself has no problem at all. And what they are claiming is, what Vedanta claims is, this is an accomplished fact. You don't have to do this. You don't have to try out something. You just have to recognize this is a fact about ourselves right now. Let me give you another approach. This is called Drishya Viveka, the discrimination between the seer and the seen, the analysis of the seer and the seen. And by the way, it does not affect your world, does not affect your body, does not affect your mind, except that it calms down the mind and the body. It enables you to function even more beautifully when you have got that much space between yourself and the body-mind complex. Now let me give you another approach, a deeper approach. It's called the analysis of the three states, Avasthatraya Vichara, which you find in the Mandukya Upanishad, the smallest of the Upanishads, only 12 verses, and there you find the three states of awareness. All of us, every day, we experience these three states of awareness. We are awake now, at least most of us are. Some of you might have drifted off to the second state of consciousness, which is dreaming. That's the second stage of consciousness. And the third state of consciousness is deep sleep. So, either we are awake here, or when we go back and you go to sleep, you enter into a dream world and you say, oh, another conference, and here we are. That's in the dream world. The entire thing is in your mind, which you realize after waking up. And the third stage is blank, nothingness. Now, what the Upanishads say is that the same consciousness, different from the mind, it continues through the three states. If you ask yourself, who was awake? I was awake. Who dreamt? I haven't outsourced dreaming to somebody. I dreamt. And who was in deep sleep? We don't say I was not in deep sleep. There's nobody in deep sleep. No, we say I was sleeping. Now look at the language. I was sleeping. So the same consciousness continues through all three. Now the interesting question is, we do not feel that the deep sleep, we have a question about that. It does not feel like a conscious state. It does not feel like a conscious state. It feels like there's nothing in deep sleep, just blank. The reason is, in deep sleep, the mind shuts down. So there's no awareness of the body, there's no awareness of thoughts, feelings, emotions also. So there's no thinking that I am sleeping. In dream, at least, we are dreaming. We don't say that we are dreaming, but we have different kinds of experiences in dream. But in deep sleep, we have none of those experiences. The mind itself is not working. But consciousness is there. We had this interesting discussion in the Institute of Culture at Wolpark, where there was a neuroscientist and a philosopher, a Sankhyan philosopher, Indian philosopher, and they were discussing this and the definition of consciousness. It's of course, it's still very debatable. They came down to this point where the Indian philosopher Sankhyan, he asked the neuroscientist, Could you tell us, in deep sleep, according to modern neuroscience, is there consciousness or not? And the doctor said that no, the way we define consciousness, in deep sleep there is no consciousness. And the Indian scientist, the Indian philosopher Sankhya, he said, according to Indian philosophy, in deep sleep there is only consciousness. There is nothing for consciousness to illumine, because the mind has shut down. It's a bit like this. Right here, just now, in this part. Is there light? You will say yes, but you don't see it light here. When will you see the light? See. When I put my hand here, you can see the light reflected from my hand, right? Now you can see the light reflected from my hand. And what's happening here is, there is this light coming from the projector, you see. Now you can see. There is the light coming from the projector. Because there was nothing to reflect that light here, you don't see the light coming here. The moment I put my hand, if I ask you, what are you seeing? You say, I can see your hand, but you are also seeing the light reflected from my hand. In the same way, in deep sleep, there is no mind. Mind is not working, so you are not aware of anything. Consciousness is there, not reflected from thoughts, feelings, emotions. So consciousness is one and unchanging through all these three states of the mind, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. And this unchanging consciousness is what we are. How does that help? I'm reminded of Sri Ramakrishna here in Kolkata when he had cancer of the throat. One day he was lying down in Kashipur and one of his disciples, Holy Maharaj, Turiyanandaji, came and said, how are you today? And Sri Ramakrishna said in Bengali, Boro koshto golai kichu khete parchi na. There is cancer in his throat. I can't eat anything. There's a lot of pain, I cannot eat anything. And Hari Maharaj, he replied, Moshai, ami to dekhchi apni moha anande achen. I am saying, sir, I see that you are in great joy. And Sri Ramakrishna's reply was, O shala dhore niyechi. This rascal has caught me out. He understands what's going on deep inside. See, there are these two things. One is, the pain is there. As long as the mind is there, the pain will be there. Body is there, the pain will be there. And you experience the pain also. But you transcend the pain, because you know the pain is at the level of the body and of the mind. It does not belong to me. Let me ask you a question. In deep sleep, the worst chronic pain which you have got, which somebody has got, that very person, when that person goes into deep sleep, no pain. Even in dreams, no pain. You say, oh, because I have lost awareness of the body. Fine, you have lost awareness of the body. Who has lost awareness of the body? You have. So the pain is not part of you. This is what Advaita Vedanta says. The pain is not part of you. It's not part of your identity. No more than this shirt is part of my identity. I can put it off, I can take it off. I can put it on and I can take it off. In the same way, your body with its entire range of problems and miseries and happinesses and whatever you have got in life, all of it you get in the waking state. In deep sleep it's all gone and you are there. Again it comes back when you wake up, proving only that you are no way bound to the pain eternally, because you're not bound to the body also. When? Not after a lot of spiritual sadhana and realization and all that. Just now, right now. Vedanta insists right now this is the case. Alright, I'll put a stop to it there. This is one approach to management of pain. Let me quickly touch upon, how much time do I have? Let me quickly touch upon three other approaches. This approach is called, the one I just spoke about, is called Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge. The path of knowledge. Let me speak about a few more approaches. The second one is the path of meditation. Raja Yoga or Dhyana Yoga. There the text is not the Upanishad, the text is the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. There it operates on the basis that, I can explain it very well in the way somebody defined pain as having two components, a sensory component and an emotional component. You can call it a cognitive component or the affect part of it. The affect. The sensation and the affect. What the path of knowledge does is, it does not affect the sensation. The sensation, the experience of pain remains the same. But what you think about it, what you make of it, changes tremendously. You see, you relegate pain to the level of the body and mind, and you say you are not the body and mind, you are something much more vast than that is. And you are asked to recognize that. That's the path of knowledge. The path of meditation does the opposite. It makes you unaware of the sensation of pain. A bit like a painkiller, I think. What it does is, it operates with the structure of our mind and consciousness. One of the features of our consciousness is that we have a limited ability to process information. A limited ability to process information. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who has written the book Flow, he writes, he has used an IT model, an information processing model of the mind, and he says approximately 120 bits of information per second can be processed consciously. That's why it's you can listen to one person talking, but if one person is talking, another person starts talking next to you, you find it irritating. Because they say that approximately 60 bits per second is necessary to process the information which you get when you hear one person speaking. So 60 bits out of your 120 bits which is available, or 40 or 50 bits. And if a second person starts speaking, what happens is, the remaining part of your processing ability is taken up. And that becomes very irritating. You can't process two audio streams at the same time. You need to have some bodily awareness also. So, our ability to process information is limited. Now, what meditation does is, it tries to take as much of that ability as possible and focus it at one point. So, this is one type of meditation, quite different from the Buddhist mindfulness meditation. Buddhist mindfulness meditation, you need to relax and become aware of whatever comes up in consciousness. If there is pain, you be aware of pain. Some sensation, you be aware of the sensation. A thought comes, you are aware of that. You acknowledge the presence of that, neutrally. Here, it's more like a laser beam, where attention is focused on a particular, maybe you're focusing on God, or you're focusing on the self, or you're focusing on a symbol, something. You just focus. And that works wonders. You will lose sight of the pain altogether. We have got so many of these examples where a person is absorbed in some task. And recently I met this young boy in Calcutta. He is working under Michael Green, who is the Lucasian professor of physics in Cambridge University now, who succeeded to that chair, who succeeded Stephen Hawking to that chair. And this young boy is doing PhD under Professor Michael Green and working in cutting-edge physics in string theory. Now I naturally asked him, have you met Stephen Hawking? How do you study? How do you work? And he has met Stephen Hawking, and he was talking about that. He met him once at a dinner party in Cambridge. Now imagine a person who has got this severe degenerative disease. Imagine the discomfort. May not have chronic pain, may not be. As somebody was saying, sometimes degenerative diseases can be there without pain. But discomfort must be there. Physical discomfort, emotional suffering, mental discomfort must be there. It's such a difficult kind of life. But because the person is deeply absorbed in some high thought, continuously absorbed in that, there is very little left over for engaging the suffering of the body. This boy, I asked him, how long do you study every day? He said, I never think about it, but coming to think of it, around 17 hours a day. So 17 hours a day, he's working on string theory. And he says he's not alone. There are many people like that. And they are not doing it as a kind of discipline. In Bengali, mothers which scold kids, porte habe, you have to study, get down to your studies. Not like that. Because they are absorbed in it. So they don't see it as a suffering. When you see a little kid, when that kid, you try to make him study, he'll jump all over the place, he'll act out. But you put him in front of his favorite cartoon show or a cricket match, and you see that same kid is so absorbed in that for hours together. Which means when the attention is absorbed, nothing else can bother you. So in meditation, that's what happens. There's a story of Swami Vivekananda sitting in meditation in Kashipur here, and the description by Girish Ghosh is that his mosquitoes. We do meditation, so we know one mosquito can ruin your meditation. But here, the description of Swami Vivekananda sitting in meditation, it says his face was black. So many mosquitoes were sitting on his face, it has become black with mosquitoes, and he doesn't feel it. He doesn't feel it. He's not using his willpower or anything. He's so deeply absorbed in the object of his meditation that there's no cognitive processing capacity left over for feeling that. I'm sure he would have got this very nasty feeling afterwards when he comes out of meditation. But the point is, another way of handling pain is being absorbed in some higher pursuit. And I can see elements of that in ACT, where you see what you value in life and do that. And that, I think one of the reasons why it works is because we have a limited processing capacity. There's only so much left over for dwelling on pain. Quality of life in this perspective, the Dhyana Yoga perspective, quality of life depends on what you pay attention to and how much attention you pay. Two things. What you pay attention to and how much attention you pay. Second approach, this is the meditation approach to dealing with pain. Third approach, I'll go very briefly now. Third approach is the traditional religious approach. If those of us who are fortunate enough to have faith in some religion, in some faith, in God in some way. Now, one great advantage is that you can actually mentally, emotionally surrender to a higher power. There's a deep sense that if this be the will of God, that I have this pain, God is my beloved, I surrender to the will of God. I know this story of Swami in the Himalayas, and they are given food. They beg for food and they stay in the caves. And I haven't seen this Swami with my own eyes, but I've heard this story. So this Swami was very highly regarded by the villagers around, and they used to give him food. And every day they would come at an appointed hour and give food to the Swami, who would live in a cave and meditate. And the Swami would say in Hindi, "Mera yaar khilata hai." He used to call God Yar. Yar means friend in Hindi. So my friend feeds me. Mera yaar khilata hai. And one day the villagers, in order to test him, they decided not to give him food and see how he reacts. And they watched from a distance. At the appointed hour, the Swami came out of the cave and looked around. No food. He went back. After some time again came out and looked around. No food today. And in the evening, the villagers went to him and asked, "Kya hua Swamiji, aaj yaar nahi khilaya? What happened? Didn't your friend feed you today?" And they found the Swami dancing in joy. "Chalo aaj meri yaar ki chali." Well, today the will of my beloved has been done. What he means was, every day I want to eat and God provides food for me. Today also I want to eat, but God did not provide food for me. Every day what I want, my friend did for me. But today what my friend wants, different from what I want, that has been done. I'm so happy that my friend's will has been done today. I did not eat because he does not want me to eat. Now this comes only when you have a very deep faith in the existence of God, and when you have a love, a relationship of prayer and surrender. And this approach is called the bhakti approach, where you offer up whatever is all happiness, all suffering up to God. That's the bhakti approach. And the fourth and last approach I want to talk about here today, so I'll just touch upon it, is, you see, one of the main reason why pain is so distressing is that it turns all the focus upon oneself. My problem, my suffering, my life, my depression. The Karma Yoga approach reverses this. Focus not upon your own needs, focus upon others. You see, we all do that to some extent. Those of you who are parents, you have problems. Your body too has pain and has different aches and little problems. You have financial problems, you have social problems. But because you are living for the children, you see, because you're concerned with children, you don't pay so much attention to your own physical problems. You don't pay so much attention. You learn to manage. In Bengali they say chaliye newa. You learn to manage with all that. The reason is you have a purpose, a focus on somebody else other than the self. Karma Yoga says you do work, live for the welfare of others. Swami Vivekananda used to say that he alone lives who lives for others. The rest are more dead than alive. Those who are continuously consuming. There's a Buddhist meditation which goes like this. Imagine the food that you ate for lunch today and set out in front of you. Imagine the breakfast that you had in the morning. Add it to the food there. So it grows. And the dinner you had last night. All the rice and dal and vegetables and everything set out in front of you. And the lunch you had yesterday. Very soon you will find the room itself is not enough. Just for one person. The amount of food that I have eaten in 1 month in front of me. Buckets and buckets of dal and mountains of rice or bread or whatever, and lakes of soup or whatever. And the amount of food that we have eaten since our childhood till today, when you're 25, 30, 40, 50 years old, till today. It's an enormous amount of resources, and that's just food that has been poured into one body. And now the question which you have to ask yourself is, what good has it done me? Not what good I have done to the others. Forget that. What have I got out of this? This enormous expenditure, resources being poured into one physical body. Do I have any permanent peace, satisfaction, happiness? Now, and most of us will say no, nothing. So it just shows the attitude of consuming, trying to make this little body-mind complex happy has not worked. It has not made me happy. Reverse it and try. If anybody who has tried to do things for others, even to the slightest extent, they feel happy. Professor Seligman, Martin Seligman, one of the leading lights of the positive psychology movement, and I end with this. He performed a very nice experiment with the students to drive home this point, that altruistic behavior gives much more happiness than selfish behavior. One day in the class, he said, today we are not going to have a class, we are going to a movie. And the kids are of course very happy. So they all went to the movie. When they came back, the professor handed out questionnaires. He said, you rate your satisfaction from this movie from 1 to 5. 1, no satisfaction, 5, perfect satisfaction. And many of them rated it 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. Next week, he said, today again no class. And the kids would have gone, movie? He said, no movie today. We are going to go out to that the poor end of the town, where poor people stay. And we have arranged to meet the kids there. We are going to distribute clothes and toys to them, and we'll make friends with them and spend the afternoon with them. And they did that. And again, when they came back, questionnaire. This activity, how much satisfaction did it give you? 1 to 5. And they gave some 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever. The interesting thing happened 6 months later. Suddenly in the middle of the class, he handed out questionnaires. Recall the movie that we saw 6 months ago. How much satisfaction does it give you now? 1 to 5. Many of them couldn't recall the title, the name of the movie. They vaguely said, yes, we saw the movie, and hardly anything. Nothing remains of that happiness. We gave 1 or 2 or nothing. And recall the afternoon that you spent with those children, made friends with them and did something for them. Right now, how much satisfaction does it give you? And they all said 3 or 4 or 5. And with satisfaction which they had said 6 months ago, it still continues. Imagine any good thing that we have done for others unselfishly without asking for anything in return. You're doctors, you keep doing that all the time. That's part of your, you do what would be called by lawyers pro bono work. So, any kind of unselfish work that you have done for others, you never ever have regretted that. You never regret that. So, Karma Yoga says, when we do something for others, when our attention is on others, our sufferings are minimized. They drop away, they become unimportant. So, I've spoken about 4 approaches in Vedanta. The approach of knowledge, which is primary. The approach of meditation. In knowledge, your emotion, cognitive aspect, the affect aspect is changed. In meditation, the sensation itself is blanked out because there is no cognitive capacity left over for experiencing that. Third, the emotional approach, the approach of love, bhakti approach. Their religious faith is very important. Those who are lucky to have it, it does help them. If they have deep religious faith, inevitably it helps them in pain management. And the fourth one is the approach of work, unselfish work, karma yoga, focusing on others rather than on oneself. I remember one Swami, I heard this anecdote. One of our Swamis in our Banaras home of service, it's a hospital. Old Swami, he is telling the young novices who have become monks. He said, what are all these problems you keep bringing before me? Depression or anger or lust or whatever, you are bringing all this before me. When I became a monk, early in the morning we used to get up and go to the hospital because we were short of hands, and somehow we would have breakfast and go and start working with the patients there, serving the patients. Somehow we would come at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock and grab a bite to eat, go back again to the hospital. In the evening, we'd come back tired, take a shower, eat whatever was remaining to food had become cold. We'd go to sleep, sleep like logs, get up early in the morning and repeat that again. 40 years of my life have passed away in peace and joy. I have never experienced those problems you're speaking about. I am saying that Swami is really blessed because he could take it, that kind of life. But you see, an entire focus. These people in the hospital, they are suffering. So their suffering is much more than mine. There's no time to think of my suffering. There's so much to do for these people. Every little bit I do helps them so much. So that is karma yoga. These 4 aspects. Questions? Thank you very much.